And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It's high noon on a Sunday, which means it is time for the Franchise Fantasy Sports Podcast with Rocky Brown. And that's the guy in the 43 jersey on the other side. I'm the guy on this side. I'll be asking the questions. The expert will have the answers. And today, Rock, we're going to talk a lot about quarterbacks. We're going to talk a lot about running backs and where they stack up this year and where you should draft them in your draft.
Yep. Looking at a lot of projections lately. Got my little projection Excel
Wizardry?
file. Yeah. So where I break down every bit of fantasy points that they're going to produce this year. And that's going to be available for people later. So
we're going to put them on the website.
So
people can look at it and say, okay, when you're picking your quarterbacks, your running backs in the draft, where should they be going? Like if you see somebody, their stock is falling quick on your draft, should you pick them up? So we're going to talk about that next week, receivers, tight ends, and defense. Okay, so that'll pick up the slack. We're going to leave kickers off the list. You can pick your own.
Yeah. Kickers are interchangeable really lately, it seems.
Outside of the, top two, they said?
Yeah. It's really – that's why most leagues I play in, get them out of there.
Chuck 'em. A lot to talk about. There's a lot to get through. And again, we'll put Rocky's basically analysis on ysnlive.com later today under the fantasy tab on our website. Rock, all right, are we going to start with running backs or
Let's start with quarterbacks?
Okay.
Because clearly there is somebody that's jumping out above everybody else. And this might be information that everyone already knows, but let's say it anyway. Josh Allen. We're using the CBS projections.
Okay.
With our fantasy numbers, we're doing the standard NFL fantasy points.
PPR.
So 4 points for a passing touchdown. Each 25 yards is 1 point for passing for quarterbacks. Interceptions, I believe they are -2. Rushing yards is a point for every 10 yards. Rushing touchdowns, 6 points.
Gotcha.
So just to kind of give a little rundown there. And Josh Allen right now, he's projected for, according to CBS, 406.44 total fantasy points. That's good for 23.9 fantasy points a game. That is over 2 points more than the nearest quarterback.
Which I'm going to guess is Mahomes?
It is Mahomes. No, it's not. Lamar Jackson. Just a hair over Mahomes. But but it's close. But yeah, Josh Allen, he seems like the clear, far and away, pick as far as quarterbacks are concerned.
Is it just because of the rushing yards on top of it?
Yeah, I believe rushing yards. He's projected for 10 fantasy touchdowns on the ground, as well as 34 through the air. You can't beat that. He's not even projected for the most rushing yards for a quarterback, but those touchdowns, they add up. 6 points a touchdown. Ooh.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson maybe on top? Yeah.
Lamar Jackson is rushing yards. He's the only quarterback projected for over 1,000 rushing yards. So if you happen to play in a league that has bonus points for somebody cracking 1,000, he might be your guy at quarterback.
Wow. Interesting. All right, so let's roll through these quarterbacks. You're taking Josh Allen number one.
Josh Allen, clear far and away the best. The guy that I've already mentioned him, the guy that seems to be out of the top 10 that is lower than I would have expected. Fantasy points wise, Tom Brady. I mean, he's somebody that, again, he comes in and plays when the playoffs roll around. And he's a guy that I've said before, he's not going to be your top quarterback taken.
He's a game manager. He always has been.
Yeah.
He's put up some unbelievable fantasy stats in years past. I can't disagree with it.
Yeah, and it's odd, though, because it's a good team that doesn't have a clear, number one running back.
Any team Tom Brady plays for never has a clear running back.
Yeah, that's well, except you look back to Corey Dillon. Corey Dillon was clear number one. I think even they had Antoine Smith for a little bit. He seemed like a number one running back. Career probably didn't last as long as it should have because of injuries, but that's a story for another time. Russell Wilson, he's somebody also. It looks like he's maybe projected to not be as good as we thought. Like he's landing outside of the top 10 right now on my list for fantasy quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Trey Lance, they're both falling right outside the top 10. So these are guys that are going to be available late.
Yes.
They're looking at around that 18.5 fantasy points a game. Hurts a little higher than Lance, 18.6 points projected per game for Jalen Hurts. That helps out a lot. You're not expecting, him to be that Josh Allen, Mahomes, Jackson, but he's the guy that you're happy with. If you get later on, okay, I went running back first. I'm waiting. And, Jalen Hurts, another guy, rushing yards, right? That's what's boosting him on the chart.
What's interesting to me about that is they have Trey Lance in there, and he's going to be QB2 to start the season.
There, obviously, CBS doesn't expect Garoppolo to last very long. I mean, and there's excitement always in the preseason. I'm sure their eyes lit up when Lance bombed that 80-yard touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this is our guy, so let's play him. So I think that's probably why they're thinking, oh, he's looking pretty good. The same thing with Justin Fields. Justin Fields is ranked higher than Dalton. Watching that game yesterday, I could see why. Dalton didn't look great. Granted, Fields didn't look the best, but he's still young. I'd rather a rookie not look the best play him than to have Andy Dalton play and try to game manage, dink and dunk.
I think you give Justin Fields some confidence going into it. You're our guy. We drafted you high. Andy Dalton, you can be backup. You haven't done absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Dalton's saying all the right things, but I know people took what he said different than he meant it. He's saying I'm the starter. He had said, Fields is going to be a great quarterback, but now is my time.
Yep.
Well, you got to prove it's your time too, and he has not done that.
No.
He's trying not to make a mistake. He's that older quarterback. Just I didn't make any mistakes. So hold on to the job and go into the season, and it's not going to work out well if he's a starter.
No. Who else we have going?
So they do have Deshaun Watson listed on this fairly high. I don't think it's happening this year. I don't think he's going to be playing. So beware of that. Some guys that I thought were lower too than expected, Baker Mayfield and Ben Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger projected at 15.38 fantasy points a game.
Let him talk.
That's something that surprised me a little bit. I expect him to be a little bit higher, but the thing that kills him is, you look at all the other fantasy quarterbacks, and he's projected for 0 rushing touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, that's something that's going to hold him back. I think 32. He's projected maybe 32 rushing yards on the season.
Yeah,
which that might be even high.
Yeah, I mean, he's the pregnant. He runs like a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
So sorry, he's not going to get you much. But you know what? He snuck out a few times last year and got some first downs.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely that guy that. I mean, you're looking at that 15 through 30 range as guys that are going to be your backups. You're going to play maybe once a year most of the time, unless your starter is going against a top defense and you're a little worried. So I mean, as a second QB on your roster, yeah, you love Baker, you love Ben.
I can't believe Baker's that low.
It doesn't surprise me just because of the running backs they have and the area they play in. He's projected by CBS at 3,952 yards. So he's not going to crack the 4,000-yard mark. Doesn't surprise me.
Aaron Rodgers, where's he fall?
Aaron Rodgers, he is top 10, projected for 4,494 yards, 20.48 a game, 348.26 overall for fantasy points. I mean, he's still going to put up his numbers. I think you're looking at that I think you're thinking elite for players 20 and over. So if I'm looking at my list, you're looking at Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, and Dak Prescott actually falls in above the 20 range.
Ugh.
So, I mean, and these are going to change as you get closer to the season, but right now, those are the guys you're probably looking at.
Right.
I have some concerns with Dak Prescott injury-wise. So, I mean, ultimately, you have to trust yourself, but this is a good area to kind of look and be like, okay, he's projected here, and I think it's good to look at, the young guys on the list and where they fall, who they project to get, some time. I mean, it really falls off. This list really falls off kind of after Drew Lock, which he's not even guaranteed that starting job.
No.
I think he will win it.
Okay.
There's a reason that Bridgewater's been on 5 different teams in his young career. So I don't think he's going to put up great numbers, but he's probably the last of the starters you're looking at. Probably a guy that's going to sit on the waiver wire quite a bit.
Okay. Thoughts on up-and-comers that you can probably sneak on your roster on the back end of it later in the rounds?
Hurts. I think Hurts is a good one. Just that he's in the top 15, and he's still projected pretty high. And he's not a guy that a lot of people watch, probably because of the flirtation that the Eagles have had with Deshaun Watson this offseason. Let's see, Fields, Stafford. Stafford's another one I like probably more than most. I'm going to keep banging the Stafford drum. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me like the Yankees have recently. Watching Zach Wilson yesterday, and I'm not a Zach Wilson fan, definitely seemed poised against Green Bay. Granted, that's a team they were practicing with all week.
Yeah.
He was picking the brain of Rodgers a little bit, but he had a pass that kind of instilled a little confidence in him. He had rolled to the left and just kind of flung a pass across his body to the right, probably like 15 yards, 20 yards, but it was pretty accurate. And spotting that guy open on the opposite side of the field, I mean, it impressed me.
Yeah.
He was taking what the defense gave him, which that's something that Jets quarterbacks haven't done since I think Sam Darnold's first game against the Lions, when he lit the world on fire that game. Everyone's like, oh, this is the guy finally. And then, of course, we all know what happened. They hired Gase and the team fell apart. So, but yeah, Zach Wilson's another young one.
Here's one for you. Jared Goff.
I don't like Jared Goff. Oh, I don't like Jared Goff. Losing Galladay, I think, hurts him a ton. I think they might have lost Marvin Jones too, if I'm thinking correctly. Yeah, that's something I'm going to have to look, but I think they lost. So you lose top two targets. He's a guy they don't have a lot of confidence in. Yeah, Marvin Jones on Jacksonville. Not a guy they have a lot of confidence in. They have kind of openly said, we had to take on the contract. So they don't have any other options. He's going to get playing time, but I don't love Jared Goff. He's projected at 14.4 fantasy points a game. That's fairly low. There are much better options, I think. But if he's a guy that you think, okay, he's not going to have pressure, he's going to, do his thing, take a shot at him. I'm not, but take a shot at him.
Quarterback to stay away from, by far.
Quarterback to stay away from. I think anybody embattled right now in a QB battle, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, I would avoid all of those guys. I don't love Carson Wentz this year. I don't know if he's even going to start the season or survive the season. I know a lot of people had high hopes of him turning his career around in Indianapolis, but I don't think that's going to happen. Cam Newton's another one. Mac Jones is sitting right there. I don't think he's going to be starter very long, and even if he is, I don't think he's not going to put up MVP Cam numbers anymore. So another guy I would probably avoid.
What about a Ryan Fitzpatrick? Fitzmagic seems to find himself in a really interesting situation in Washington. And listen, they won the division last year. Can he be a sneaky quarterback to put on, maybe, obviously not your starter. If he's your starter, you might be in trouble. Yeah. But if he might be a guy that could get you a breath of fresh air if your starter's on a bye week.
Yeah, I think he's a good QB too. He's projected, according to CBS, 3,877 yards. But you look, he's got projected for 6 rushing touchdowns on the ground. And that wouldn't surprise me if he got that. So he's definitely a guy that I like as a QB too. 15.7, 15.8 points a game. I think you can survive a couple games with that if you have an injury or, bye week. So
all right, we're gonna play. You got to pick one of them, okay? I'm gonna give you 2 quarterbacks. You got to pick one of them. No reason has to be given. Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence.
Burrow.
Okay, let's go. Kirk Cousins or Daniel Jones.
Cousins.
Tua or Sam Darnold.
Oh, that's the toughest one. Tua looked decent yesterday. I'm still going to go with Darnold. I think the talent's there. I'll go Darnold.
Let's go Ryan Tannehill or Derek Carr.
Tannehill.
Okay.
I'll go Tannehill.
And I think we covered all of them. There's Matt Ryan, who is the ultimate.
Oh my gosh, Matt Ryan, the the people at EA Sports love him because his Madden rating is through the roof. But yeah, I don't like Matt Ryan this year. I mean, I think people are forgetting they lost Julio Jones too. Even when he was injured, he was hobbling out there and getting double coverage. So yeah, I don't like Matt Ryan this year. I'm sure, I'll go out on the limb and I'll say this will be his last year as a starter for the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow. Okay. Let's get to our running backs. Where do we start?
I mean, obviously at the top, you're looking Christian McCaffrey, projected for 109 receptions. If you play in a PPR league, that's huge. 109 receptions, 936 yards, and that's just through the air. Projected for 1,300 on the ground, 13 rushing touchdowns, according to CBS, 25.8 points a game. That's a guy like, again, the nearest to him is 4 points behind him a game, and that's Dalvin Cook. So if you've got that number one pick, I think you're definitely staring at Christian McCaffrey. But again, he's a guy that has injury concerns. Maybe if you can trade picks in your league, maybe it's somebody you entice. Okay, well, you've got the end of the draft. You've got, picks. Let's say if you do a snake, picks 12 and 13. I'll give you the first pick for 12 and 13. Maybe something like that.
Wow.
I mean, then that just depends on if your league does that. Not a lot to the trading of the picks. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Is he going to win leagues this year?
He lost a lot of leagues last year.
Yeah, he lost a lot of leagues. Yeah. So I don't know. It seems like, I mean, they got Hubbard there clearly to be a backup. He's been doing good preseason. They're going to try to keep him fresh, I imagine. And if I'm thinking correctly, Darnold wasn't the best quarterback in throwing screens. And you see that a bit with taller quarterbacks. And also the Jets didn't really have anybody to throw the ball to screen-wise, but I mean, that can be a factor too.
Okay, so number two, you got number one is CM Squared, or what the hell they're calling him.
He's got a ton of nicknames, I'm sure.
So Dalvin Cook, number two, you said?
Dalvin Cook.
You like him there?
Yeah, I mean, I like him enough.
Where does a battle like Alvin Kamara versus Derrick Henry? Because you've got two different running backs, but they're got to be up there, probably 3 and 4, if not close to that.
Yeah, that's about where they're ranking. Historically, you look back at guys that have had the workload of a Derrick Henry, and you notice that year after there's some concern.
Yeah.
So I have Henry a little bit lower. They have him projected for 1,900 yards, 14 touchdowns. I don't see him getting there. He's still going to be good. You got to remember, they also picked up Julio Jones. Ryan Tannehill's probably licking his chops right now. Like, oh, this is my year, man. You're going to watch something. So I probably project him for a little less than that 374 carries. But Kamara is another guy that has some injury concerns, and he's got Murray behind him, that Vultures touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I probably have both of them a little bit lower. One of the guys that popped on this was Joe Mixon.
Really?
Joe Mixon, because you look at the receiving touchdowns projected for 5. That's the same as Christian McCaffrey. Not the highest projection in the league. That would go to Austin Eckler, a San Diego Charger. But so yeah, I mean, I think with running backs too, you're not going to get, more than likely, unless your draft is something special. You're not going to get like Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry, or Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler. So that's why I kind of always look for those under the radar plays like Joe Mixon. Okay, try to spot something that's jumping out in the numbers. So that's why I like breaking it down fantasy wise. I've got a section for rushing yards, got a section for rushing TDs, got a section. So you can kind of look. Okay, this guy's popping here. So okay, Austin Eckler. He's projected for 654 yards, but 89 receptions, 857 yards on the ground. What if he carries the ball more than 146 times? So is he a guy that maybe moves up into that top 5, ranking if he gets more carries on the ground? Obviously. So I think that's what you got to do because you're gonna play the draft early. you're going to kind of see what's going on, who's the top guy that everyone's targeting. Like, 9 times out of 10, Christian McCaffrey's going 1, Dalvin Cook's probably going 2. Derrick Henry maybe in that 2 to 3 range because people, he ran for a lot of yards last year.
But this is the running back's a position on your team that you can win or lose the draft.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But really, I don't think until you look at the numbers, you don't realize how interchangeable that like 8 to 25 range is, maybe. Because you're looking at maybe like 9 to 25 range. Because you're looking at just a couple points here and there. Now, granted, there's a difference between that 25 and then you drop down to like Josh Jacobs at 12 points a game. But it's not a huge difference if you're looking at, Jonathan Taylor at like 15, 16 points a game and DeAndre Swift at 13, 14 points a game.
Okay, so here's a name that is thrown around a lot around this area, Nick Chubb, a guy on the Cleveland Browns, the top running back in the league last year from the handoff perspective, getting rushing yards, but not necessarily the best running back out of the backfield to catch passes. Where do you have him, and should people avoid him or maybe sneak him in at a second round or third round?
I mean, obviously he has more value if you're not in a PPR league. So you look at Nick Chubb, and if I told you his projected numbers by CBS, 1,643 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, you would probably think, oh, he's probably in that 17, 18 points a game range, and he's at 15 because there's nothing there for receptions. I think 2 touchdowns through the air, 45 receptions, and I think that's a little bit on the high end.
Yeah.
If he got that, I think you'd be thrilled with having Nick Chubb, but I don't know if the numbers are going to be quite that much.
So you look at the other side, the Pittsburgh fans around here loving what they're seeing with Najee Harris. They saw it last night, a 46-yard catch out of the backfield that basically was, a Ben Roethlisberger special, a 5-yarder, and Najee turned it into something special. So when you look at Najee Harris, he has a little more upside now that people can see him out of the backfield as a pass receiver?
I think to an extent. And looking at the numbers, he is projected right now for more fantasy points a game than Nick Chubb. And they've got him, CBS has got him a little bit on the low end. I think he breaks at 1,000 yards.
Yep.
And they've got him 974. And I'm like, that's a little low. I wouldn't be surprised if he was that, 11 to 1,200 running back this year. So, I mean, I like him. I'm starting to like him more and more, I think, as the time goes on. I might rank him above Chubb. We'll see. I don't want to give away too many of my secrets because we've got that fantasy draft coming up a day before the season.
Well, you're the expert. You're the wizardry that you can create in that draft is better than anything we can do.
I don't want to give away too much. You got to always keep a little bit for yourself. Like, there's a few guys that, like, I'll probably be talking about a little bit more later on that I'm kind of like keeping close to the vest. And
well, here's 2 guys that there's a lot of concern about: Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley. People are worried about the injuries they're coming off of last year. You got Quadzilla and Barkley. He's still, I guess, a minimum participant in contact drills. As far as I know, is that a red flag for fantasy owners?
I don't think it's a red flag yet. If he doesn't get any time in the preseason, I might be a little bit more concerned, but everything I've been reading seems to indicate that he's going to be the guy this year. He's going to be healthy. He's a guy that I've seen go top 5 picks in like mock drafts. I wouldn't do that. He's a guy that I'm looking at, okay, if he's sitting there second round, okay, let's take a shot at him. Let's see what
I'm seeing 9, 9, 6, 6, 3, 6. So talk to me about Ezekiel Elliott. Do you like him?
Oh man, there's a lot of coach speak around Pollard, and that has me minorly concerned. I mean, obviously we all get to watch a lot of Dallas games. If you don't have the DirecTV package, because Dallas is constantly on Fox. And when Dak was playing, you noticed they didn't feed Zeke as much, and Dak's back. So I imagine they're going to pull the same stuff on the goal line with, okay, let's try to get Dak a touchdown here. Well, let's have a rollout and have Dak run it in, So I like him a little less, not even injury-wise, just because Dak's back. And I think that might hurt him moving forward.
One running back to stay away from.
One running back to stay away from.
By all means, it's not like if he's available, he looks good, but as soon as you taste it, it's going to be that nasty taste, and it could cost you your season.
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, I could go with James Robinson, but I think that's kind of an easy guess.
Myles Gaskin here.
Myles Gaskin. Let's go Antonio Gibson, because it seems like everybody loves Gibson. He's a guy that's rising up the boards.
He's high.
But I mean, he played well on a bad team that didn't utilize their wide receivers. They picked up Curtis Samuel, didn't they? They have Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel now.
I believe you're correct, sir.
So, I mean, I imagine that Curtis Samuel is going to take some of those screens away. You just got to think. He's also, little teaser here, but Curtis Samuel right now, he's projected to have some rushing yards and some carries on the year. So he might be playing a little bit out of the backfield. CBS, they do their research. They know what's going on. I like Antonio Gibson a little less because the receptions aren't going to be there. They used their running backs a lot last year. McKissick won me a lot of games in daily fantasy just because, they don't have anything. Let's dump it off to McKissick again.
All right, let's do a little either or for the running backs here. You ready?
Okay.
Let's go Clyde Edwards-Helaire or J.K. Dobbins.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire or J.K. Dobbins. I'll go Dobbins.
Why do you like Dobbins there?
Because I think they're going to get him the ball a little bit more. Mark Ingram's not there anymore. I know Gus Edwards is still there, but I do think that he's going to be the lead back. I don't think it's going to be as split as it was last year.
Okay, here's an interesting one. I think Miles Sanders in Philadelphia, who's been rising up the charts and all the projections I'm looking at, or DeAndre Swift from Detroit.
I will go Sanders right now.
And why do you like him?
Because I think that offense, Hurts is going to run some RPO. And I think Sanders could excel in that. I like him a little bit more out of the backfield to catch the ball, even though Swift's projected for more. And maybe that's just because of my lack of faith in Goff.
I see that. Okay, here's the last either or. Let's go with Kareem Hunt as a RB1A, or do you go with a guy like Raheem Mostert?
Ooh, I like Mostert, but I'm going to go with Mostert.
Over Kareem Hunt. There's a lot of Browns fans that are going to pull the plug on you right now.
Oh, yeah. But, I've watched a lot of Raheem Mostert.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's got some talent. If he can stay healthy, he's dangerous. He's projected right now by CBS 164 carries. That's it for 871 yards, 5.3 average. If he gets a little bit more carries than that, you're pretty happy with him.
Let's do a stash for cash, one of our newest segments here on For the Fantasy, For the Franchise Fantasy Podcast, rather. All right, I got 3 running backs. I want you to stash one for cash, one that you can essentially utilize today for daily fantasy or utilize down the line. Here's a guy I really like, Phillip Lindsay, who made his name in Denver, now playing for Houston. Devin Singletary at Buffalo, or a guy like Leonard Fournette, who could be a vulture for Tampa Bay. Which one are you stashing for cash, Rock?
Singletary. I think Singletary. I don't think Moss is going to steal that many carries from him. And we all know what Matthew Breida is there. I think he's one of those guys that's on the verge of like maybe having a breakout. I think a lot of people predicted that last year. Didn't happen. But I mean, it could be this year. I like him.
All right, there it is. That's your stash for cash, and that is your For the Franchise Fantasy Sports podcast.
And I'll add one more running back name.
Uh-oh.
Mike Davis.
You like him?
Mike Davis in Atlanta, just because. I mean, watch the guy run. He's like a bowling ball. I mean, he filled in well for Christian McCaffrey. Like they didn't lose a lot with Davis in there, which was surprising. He was a fantasy darling last year.
Yeah.
And I think people are forgetting he's in Atlanta now and it's going to get quite a bit of carries. There's one of my little secrets for people.
A little wizardry.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. What's your one thing this week, Rocco?
Oh, one thing. You know, I'm a wrestling fan.
I am.
So we got to talk about a little bit of CM Punk's return.
Best in the world.
Oh my gosh. Check out AEW. I was watching them there on the TNT app. You know, if you got a cable subscription, if you have a friend that has a cable subscription, sign on to that. You can watch on Xbox, everything else. They've got a few things on there. I was watching it. It's a pretty good product. I mean, if you're a WWE fan and you watch AEW, you might not want to tune back into WWE. That's how good it was. I'll say it. Watch the 5 stages of Jericho matches.
Cena's out at WWE, so I mean, you know, I'm a huge Cena fan.
Yeah.
I'm out too. Give him the 17. Give him the 17. Let's go.
Yeah, I think it was time.
Roman's done. Like,
I mean, if you watch that like CM Punk moment, you knew WWE was going to react with like, okay, we're going to bring some people back. So it didn't surprise me. Becky Lynch came back, and it didn't surprise me. Brock came back, but it paled in comparison to a show that's like basically superstars, like WWE superstars. Like they just, let's bring out CM Punk and in Chicago, and that place was hot.
Yeah, well, it's in Chicago. That's always.
I think it would have been hot anywhere. I just have a feeling it was a good moment though, and they did give out ice cream bars after the show.
Were you surprised that they brought him out first?
No, I think it was a good decision too, because I mean that Cult of Personality hit, and he came out, and it was. I was glued the rest of the show.
Did he talk?
Oh yeah.
Did he? Okay, I haven't seen it yet. So don't spoil it.
Yeah, go to TNT's app and give that a watch. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
That's Rocky. I'm DJ. This has been For the Franchise Fantasy Sports Podcast. Every Sunday, and especially during football season, you're going to want to tune in at noon right here on YSN. Rocky, final comment?
We got that we still got some spots in the fantasy football league.
People.
Yeah, right. It is filling up. I think we probably have, and we haven't promoted it that much, but I think we're over half full.
There we go.
So just with commitments and
fill it up.
Yeah.
Fill it. I have to still sign up.
Yeah.
So
it's all right. It's all right. You'll
talk the talk.
You'll get there.
All right. That's going to do it. Again, that's Rocky. I'm DJ. This has been For the Franchise Fantasy Sports Podcast. We'll see you next Sunday, high noon, right here on YSN.